let's look at the running backs. The guys at the top of our rankings are Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, and Raybon. It's a proud day for you. Aaron Jones, who has absolutely just crushed this year. Davis, how are you ranking your top three?
I mean, Alvin Kamara, number one, Ezekiel Elliott, and then Jones would be number three for me.
Sean, how are you ranking them?
Yep, I have it Kamara, Elliott, and Jones. Derrick Henry has the matchup against the Steelers. We don't even know if that's going to play. So he's a little bit lower this week. And Dalvin Cook, who's trending up. Just he can't reach the caliber of Aaron Jones. Like you said, good call, Raybon. But yeah, Aaron Jones is definitely top 3 running back this week.
All right, Raybon. This is the opportunity to crow.
I have him number 4, so I'm actually lower. I have Jacobs a hair ahead of him. They're like tenths of a point separated, so maybe I just need to knock Jacobs down. But it's really close for me. I don't really disagree with any of that. I think Kamara has to be number 1 right now with Thomas out. Drew Brees just he's like the best quarterback ever at not turning into Peyton Manning when he gets old. He's just going to continue to be efficient and hey, this just going to dump it off to this guy who can get me all of my yards. So yeah, Kamara smash play. And I agree. Henry's he gets a little knocked down in this matchup, and we obviously don't know what's going on with those teams.
All right. So I have Aaron Jones number 2, Kamara number 1, obviously. Jones number 2. I actually have Jacobs number 3. And it's not that I think it's a great matchup or anything for him. It's just that I think he's going to be used so much. He has been used so much in the running game. He's being used enough in the passing game. And then if they get near the end zone, it's almost automatic that he's going to get an opportunity to score. And so I have him just a hair ahead of Zeke. In part because the Cowboys are passing so much that Zeke isn't getting the usage that I think maybe
he's got what's he got 21 targets through 3 games. He just keeps dropping them. He just keeps dropping. I literally think he already has 6 drops through 3 games. But let me tell you, they're not going anywhere, dude. They just are going to keep feeding Zeke. It's the organizational philosophy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking drops or anything like that into account. I'm looking pretty much at just market share and projecting that forward. I think he'll have a good game. I haven't projected number 4, but I don't know. I have Jacobs just a hair ahead.
Also,
he's going to get so many touches.
You can't discount the own the libs factor, where if they get up 14, it's like we're getting Zeke first, second, and third down for the entire third and fourth quarters. The Cowboys love to do that stuff.
Davis, who is someone you're relatively high on?
Someone I'm relatively high on, it's going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because I bet I'll have him ranked as running back 5 or 6 this week. For example, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a better fantasy play than Austin Eckler, a better fantasy play than Nick Chubb, James Conner, James Robinson, Chris Carson if he's active, Kenyon Drake. I think he is. We've seen it, the on-ramp to Clyde Edwards-Helaire being the 3rd best running back in fantasy. We've seen it, and it just hasn't all came together. We haven't had the touchdowns and 6 catches in the same game yet, but it's coming.
Davis, side question here. Is Edwards-Helaire already the number 1 running back in Dynasty?
Yeah. I would, if I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire on my roster, there's not another running back I would trade him 1 for 1 for.
Yeah. That's my sense of this as well. Sean, and by the way, Davis, I should say we are right there with you. We all have Edwards-Helaire number 5 to number 7 in the rankings. So we, like you, are pretty on board with him this week. Sean, who are you high on?
So the 2 running backs I'm high on this week really haven't done much this year, but I think this is a good buy low opportunity in DFS especially. But the first guy is Joe Mixon. He's at home against the Jaguars at 5,800. I'm down on Mixon long term. I view him more as an RB2. He's kind of a bust if you took him, in round 1. But Giovanni Bernard just eats into his target share way too much, especially when the Bengals are trailing, which we're going to see a ton of this year. So I think we get a run-heavy game script here. They're -3.5, I believe, against the Jaguars. So this should be a big Mixon game where he could see 20-plus touches. good chances to score. So I love buying low here. I don't know if he's going to be low owned or not, but I think people overlook him for sure. And the other guy, similar situation, is David Johnson. Has had a brutal start to the season just based on the schedule. But the Texans, they're going to be favored against the Vikings if this game plays, of course. So I think we'll see a positive game script from him. He's been seeing a ton of passing routes with Duke Johnson out. It's unclear if Duke Johnson will return this week, but I think this could be a heavy workhorse game for David Johnson. So I love him at 5,600 against this Vikings defense that is a shell of its former self, to be kind.
Okay. I was low on Mixon last week. I'm low again on him this week. And looking at the rankings, Sean, you're high on him. Raybon, you're high on him. I'm really low on him. I don't know if we can take for certain that the Bengals actually should be favored, or even if they should be favored, actually will end this game, will win this game. Like, we've seen a situation where Mixon is getting a lot of the carries, but he's not getting goal line opportunities and he's not getting targets. So he's basically getting, empty calories with no protein. And until we actually see him start to produce more fantasy points, I just don't know if I can actually invest in him. So I'm relatively low. Raybon, I think you are high on him.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it, to be honest, but I bet the over on Jags Bengals at 44.5. It's up to 48. I just think this is going to be a close game with two below average defenses and average-ish quarterbacks. And I think the ball is just going to move in this game. So Mixon still gets a ton of the snaps, he doesn't get all the targets and the routes in the backfield, but still is going to be there when it's all said and done. And I think Joe Burrow is a good quarterback in this spot to kind of just move the ball for him. He's going to take some pressure off him. And this Jags defense is not great. So I like Mixon. I also like Sean's call with David Johnson. I think, Davis, you mentioned earlier how Johnson, I think you mentioned Johnson wasn't looking good. And you're kind of right, but he really hasn't had a chance. It's been three teams.
He's fine. He's very fine, but he's not making Deshaun Watson or that offense any better though.
A couple other guys real quick I want to mention. Kenyon Drake's at 6K. He's had 18-plus touches in all 3 weeks. Hasn't really done anything with them. Carolina, number 28 in run defense, DVOA. I think this is a spot where Drake could blow up. We've seen him do it in the past. Long runs, 3-4 touchdowns in a game. He's capable of that. And Carlos Hyde. I don't think Chris Carson's going to play. They're saying it's a 1 to 2 week injury. I could be wrong, but monitor the situation.
No, I think he's going to be out longer than this. This is such a weird Seattle thing. Okay, great. His ACL is not torn. His MCL is not torn. Great. I don't necessarily buy that. He might be active against Miami. My guess is we see him in week 6.
They have a week 6 bye, I think, so that might be a good reason for them to keep him out until they return week 7 against the Cardinals. So that would be the target date, I would think.
Yeah, so Carlos Hyde is, and I love this especially for DFS. I think you got to pick him up on your waiver wire if you don't have him already. But in DFS, he's 5.3K. So Russell Wilson is going to be the chalk, of course. And Seattle has had 14 passing touchdowns thanks to Russ's brilliance. They've had 1 rushing touchdown. Math just says that that's going to regress at some point, and you would have major leverage because Hyde is probably going to be the number 1 back. I think Homer will mix on passing downs, but the goal line carry should go to Hyde. And this Dolphins defense is second to last in run DVOA. The total is 54. So this is a potential sneaky multi-touchdown spot for Hyde, as disgusting as that sounds.
All right.
It does sound pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it does. Not going to lie.
You guys mentioned earlier being down on Goff in part because it's a good running spot. I'm kind of correlated with that, high on Daryl Henderson. We've just really seen him get the workload with the Rams over the past 2 weeks. So I think he's probably going to be the guy. Really no certainty in terms of when Cam Akers comes back, and Malcolm Brown is also dealing with some injuries. So pretty high on Daryl Henderson this week. Davis, who are you low on?
So I think relative to the field, some of the guys I am low on are going to be guys who just catch a little bit of ownership from, these guys can score 2 touchdown guys. So, that's just going to be the classic, Eckler, Chubb region of guys. I do think, though, I'm probably not going to be buying the dip with Kenyon Drake. So a couple things. One, I think every week that he looks terrible, they're much more likely to give more of the work to Chase Edmonds. And not only that, I think that my hot take for this week is we see Eno Benjamin no longer a game day inactive. I think that they're going to make him active this week. They're coming off the loss. Drake has been their worst player on offense, right? I mean, I guess maybe you could say Keyshawn Johnson looked like he was shaving points on that last drive in the fourth quarter, but he's been terrible. And I believe you guys would know this better than I would. He is not signed to any kind of contract extension. Like he's just if it doesn't work out for him this year in Arizona, they don't have to pay him, and he's gone. He's off the team. We saw last year they had no allegiance. Like Cliff had no allegiance to David Johnson once he got dinged up. We saw him be a healthy scratch or the third string running back for the rest of the season. So I totally get it. And maybe, if you're listening to this and then you play me on DraftKings Sunday in cash and I have Kenyon Drake, I reserve that right. But he is not going to be a core part of my tournament strategy. He won't be on any of my single entry or 3 max teams.
That was so wonderful. That was a very Davis statement. Also, I'm glad it was someone else other than me who mentioned a third string running back on the show. Otherwise,
third string running back who has not even been active to play special teams yet this year.
Yeah.
By the way, how's Corey Clement doing?
By the way, I feel like it should be said that in week 3, Dan Arnold might have been the worst player on the.
You think so? I don't know. I think it was Drake. He was pretty bad.
You know what's problematic? You know who really was right? It was Kyler Murray because he was supposed to smash and he threw all these interceptions and he lost the game and the over didn't hit. Like that was the worst player. Like the Cardinals have a lot of candidates and it's actually not. It's not ideal because we didn't even mention Kyler in all those quarterbacks and he could smash this week.
You know who outproduced Dan Arnold in week 3?
Jace Sternberger.
Yep. And you know who got outproduced by 2 other Packer tight ends in week 3? Jace Sternberger. But now you got it. I'll let you live, Friedman. You're due for a comeback at some point.
There's just so much production to go around in Green Bay, as we all expected. Okay, Sean, who are you low on?
Well, I had this written down last night, but Mark Ingram, I expected him to smash last night. I thought it'd be a close game. And I was going to say, Ingram gets a huge boost when games are supposed to be close. And don't play him when it's going to be a blowout. So I guess my point stands corrected. But this week, I expect the Ravens to blow out the football team. So he's not worth the $5,700 price tag. I think the Ravens will bounce back, but we've seen them go to Gus Edwards in the fourth quarter when they're blowing out another team. So stay away from Ingram this week. I'm sure you already were. And
stay away from Ingram every week. Mark Ingram is done. We've seen it.
I was fading him week 3 last year, and he kept scoring touchdowns, but I think it's officially toasted.
I think it's officially Dobbins Edwards season.
Yeah,
and Dobbins looked great. I don't know why they keep playing Ingram so much, but Dobbins looks legit.
Yeah,
good.
He's the pass catching back, as little value that provides in this offense, but he's probably
he's what we thought Justice Hill was going to be.
Yeah,
rest in peace, buddy.
Exactly. And the other guy, I won't step on Raybon's toes here because I know he's low on him, but Eckler at 7,100. I'm fading him. He had a huge game against the Panthers, and now he faces the Bucs, who've done a pretty good job containing RB1s. Kamara and CMC were limited. They managed to score 2 touchdowns each, but I don't think Eckler will get that lucky. And if Tyrod starts, I think we're going to have to downgrade Eckler whenever Tyrod starts. So hopefully Herbert is a QB going forward if you own Eckler, but I'm down on him at 71K this week.
I love how Sean just said, I'm not going to step on it, and then gave the full analysis about why you should.
I'm sure Raybon will have other points. But
Raybon, hit us with the Eckler stuff.
Yeah, Eckler's a guy I love, and I think Davis mentioned it. He could always score 2 touchdowns, but the Bucs defense is extremely underrated. I think their front.
Herbert's going to look like a rookie in this game.
Yeah, and that's my thinking exactly. And the thing with the Bucs defense is every player on their front is either a former top 12 first rounder, a former All-Pro, or both. And if they're keying in on Eckler, especially, it's going to be problematic, and I think they're going to have to go in other directions. And by the way, they're allowing 150 yards on 57 carries, just 2.6 yards per on the ground. So it's not one of those games where Eckler can supplement his lack of passing usage or inefficiency if it comes to that with some good yards per carry as he can usually. And then Nick Chubb as well. it's just hard for me from like a projection perspective to get him enough usage this week to, be in my top 10. He's actually my RB 17 right now. He's out carried Kareem Hunt just 51-38. They've had a couple of positive scripts with, scoring 30 plus on both the Bengals and the Washington football team. Now they're a big dog against Dallas on the road. So it's the amount of carries tend to go down in those situations. I think Stefanski will still run it, obviously, to keep it close, but Chubb only averaging 1 target per game. And he's running a decent amount of routes. It's not like Hunt is blowing him out of the water in routes run, and he's still not getting targeted that much. And Dallas, if they get ahead, you're not just going to be able to like dump the ball off to running backs. You're going to have to go down the field. You're going to have to go to Beckham and Landry. You might have to use Austin Hooper some more. So just not a game where I think Chubb can live up to his cost.
All right, Sean, give us the prop.
The prop is James Robinson rushing yards against the Bengals. I have it at 70.5.
I can't believe it's higher than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, by the way.
That's an under. I know this James Robinson story's been incredible. I know he was awesome on Thursday night. I think that some harsh realities for the James Robinson investors are coming soon. And it sucks because I'm one of them. Like, I have him in some of these leagues where he was like an early fab guy, like a week 0 fab guy. But I'm not feeling great about just the whole Jaguars offense. It seems like it's tough times are coming.
Before Sean moves the line, I'm going to bet the under as well. I have it around 60.5.
Sean, what was the line? 70.5?
70.5. Now it's 65. No, you can have
70.5
if you want. Yeah,
dude, you're way too low. I'm at 71.4, bro.
There we go.
Like almost a whole yard above. But I'll go over, and this is more just a math play. Like I think the Bengals defense is decent. It's going to be decent against the run. I think they'll struggle more in the pass game. But Robinson still has looked good and is getting. He's kind of like their centerpiece on offense.
Yeah, he plays every down.
Right. Like, so like, it's not like a play that I'm like he should not be priced higher than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's egregious and ridiculous, but I think he's going to somehow get his way, find his way to 12 to 18, PPR points one way or another.